GamerSpawn.
Hey, what is happening gamers? It's Callum here with GamerSpawn, and we are bringing you our preview of the upcoming game from BioWare, Mass Effect 3. And with just over 2 months left until its release date, gamers are on edge as to what they can hope to expect. So GamerSpawn has gathered all of the most important elements for you. Enjoy. To kick off, we as the player found ourselves in a rather tight spot during the latter parts of the final downloadable content for Mass Effect 2, Arrival, where destroying a mass relay stopped the Reapers from invading. This however also had a negative effect and annihilated a nearby system. So with Commander Shepard taking the blame with the rest of the galaxy and being told that he must stand trial once things have calmed down, the last downloadable content, Arrival, was finished, and thus ended the final story of Mass Effect 2. Now with the third game's release quickly closing in on us, we learn that during the start of the game, our saviour is standing trial on Earth, held to account for his previously mentioned transgressions, when the Reapers appear and begin an attack on an unprepared Earth, resulting with Shepard being forced to flee the planet in an attempt to rally the various alien races to launch a counterattack in Earth's aid, whilst also dealing with Cerberus, who now wants him dead. BioWare have also again allowed players to continue their stories from the first two games, complete again with their own personal Shepard and the various choices you picked beforehand in both Mass Effect 1 and 2, which will affect main characters, whom will not return for example if they died during your playthrough of the first two games. Gamers had some various concerns over how RPG elements had been changed between the first Mass Effect and the second. Basically the latter was slightly stripped away at, where you could no longer fully customize your team's equipment and the leveling up system was in a way dumbed down. So BioWare have intended to suit everyone this third time around by implementing 3 different modes of play chosen at the start. These are action, story and RPG modes. The differences between them being that action will be more like the Gears of War series, with the emphasis being placed onto the action side. With no dialogue options available, the game will move more swiftly. RPG mode will give the player more sway as it did during the first game, allowing more control over leveling up and of course full dialogue options, while story mode will be a happy medium. Also added will be a New Game Plus option, giving the player a choice as to whether they wish to begin a new game fully equipped after having finished, with the goal of going through the story a different way or just picking up items missed during their first playthrough. You will also be allowed for the first time to continue on the story after the game is finished, leaving most fans sighing with relief at finally being able to go back and complete forgotten side quests. Lastly on this, for the first time you the player will be able to make use of the Xbox 360's Kinect to pick out dialogue options on screen rather than selecting them with the controller, allowing for a more immersive conversation during dialogue. Next up, let's talk briefly about exploration and locations in the game. It would appear from various interviews with developer BioWare that the mining segment used for exploration in Mass Effect 2 is likely not going to return, as it was not favoured. Instead it looks like they have reverted back to using vehicles to explore as they did during the first game. However, this appears to have been redesigned to avoid the same issues that fans raised during the first game. Locations look to be incredibly varied in the final addition to the trilogy, allowing the player for the first time to visit various different alien races' homeworlds during their playthrough to save Earth. You will also be able to revisit older locations such as the Citadel during your path. And lastly on this, the Normandy will again return, having been reclaimed by the Alliance and rebuilt to allow for newer technologies and also new areas within the ship. Moving on, combat appears to have been redefined again, making it similar to that of Gears of War, allowing the player to sprint quickly across the battlefield and even perform a combat role. Fatigue has been removed from the game, allowing the player to move unhindered for long periods of time, and you will now be able to leap across gaps without having to first take cover. All of this has allowed for the speed of combat to be significantly increased by around 10 to 15% according to official BioWare sources. In addition, hiding behind cover and blind firing will now be an option, whilst also being able to move quickly between covers rather than jumping over them has also become available, again allowing for smoother, more realistic combat. Each class will be given an instant melee kill effect, and for the first time, the Xbox 360's Kinect can be used to issue verbal orders to teammates to use their powers and to instruct them to move to different locations. Finally, on combat, the AI has been improved, allowing for the enemy to actually work as a team rather than as individuals to achieve their goal. And we are being told, as a result of this, combat difficulty has been greatly increased to give a greater sense of reward to the player. The player will once again be able to modify their weapons, allowing for improved combat performance and a different appearance, whilst the return of powers will give the player greater freedom in upgrading it than during Mass Effect 2. So, next up, let's discuss the intended multiplayer for the game. It will be based around co-op with up to 3 friends, playing unique missions such as taking over enemy strongholds, and these can impact the end of the main story. And whilst not necessary, we are told that by doing these missions it will make an entirely positive outcome to the game easier to achieve. When started, you will have to create your own characters, of which all major races in the game will be available to choose from, and then use their unique powers to cause destruction to your foes. Lastly, you will be able to level up these characters of yours and take advantage of a skill tree just like in the campaign mode. So to conclude, Mass Effect 3 looks to be a true contender for the Game of the Year, having already been nominated at this early stage, and appears so far to be a large improvement to the trilogy and a fine finish to what has been a fantastic story and journey through the last few years. Well gamers, that's all from me. If you want to see more, please subscribe to the channel, and as always it's Callum here with GamerSpawn, and happy gaming.